draw in more people instead of everybody being so scattered. For those of us who have our hearing impaired, we can we can hear better. And I like the intimacy of it. I like us feeling like we're all part of a circle and together. So Joanne helped me this morning to rearrange.
You did a nice job.
It looks nice.
Well, it looks
rearrange
nice.
my
It looks
furniture.
nice. Okay. So I hope you all find this more conducive to discussion, which I don't think is a problem in this room, but but anyway.
Thank you.
Okay.
On it.
So we've talked about
Still on it.
what loneliness is, identified it, know it's a problem in all over the world. And we've also talked about how our bodies are reacting to loneliness and how it can cause us to have health issues. So what we're going to start doing today is start talking about how to deal with loneliness. And for one thing, it's very interesting the way that Dr. Murty organizes this. He starts out talking about the importance of loving yourself. How many of you grew up with Mr. Rogers? My sons grew up with Mr. Rogers. You may not know him, but he was actually he was a Presbyterian minister, but he had a TV show that was aimed at children and teaching children to love their neighbor. And he did it in a pretty unique way, but I'm going to start this morning with a quote from Mr. Rogers. He said in his book, You Are Special, he said, you can't really love someone else unless you really love yourself first. So I thought, when I think about loving myself, I thought about things that are important to me. And I know you all have things that are important to you. I love to garden, and obviously I love to read, but these are things that are important to me. But what is really important to me is to share the love of those things. We all have things that we like to do and are important to us. So what I would like for you all to do is to share. What is something that is important to you? And what would you like to share? This church is really good about having groups of people who with like interests.
How we what? How we what? What was the last
We
one?
have groups of similar interests. So I want you to think about what are things that you enjoy doing that are important to you. I know you're in a book club.
Well, I enjoy reading. I mean, I read at least 2 hours every day.
Is that all?
That's all.
I have a serious addiction.
Yes.
Wiley, feel free to move the chairs around. I moved it so Wiley could, so that Grady could sit down. There's a corner of the table right there.
Now, okay. Evidently, I have a job to do, which is a joyful job. I think all of you around this table know what a an amazing job and service and mission and ministry that Ann Clark has in this church, greeting and welcoming and including all quietly does it. She's not only a real treasure to this church, but an example for all of us. And so I have from the church
Thank
a little
you so much.
something
Thank
to
you
say,
so much.
to give you.
Feel free to take
You
a
want to
chair.
go to now?
If you'd like to sit next to Emily, feel free. You want to move your chair next to Emily?
Oh,
It can be.
it sure can be. But thank you so much. Before COVID, I think I've told everybody I wasn't much of a Sunday school girl. From when I left Sunday school, I guess, or in mid-high school, I stayed away from Sunday school. And then on Sundays, I would get ready and come on into church and bypass Sunday school. And when we started having Sunday school with our computers and Zoom, I don't know, when it came time for us to come back over here, I just got up, put as little makeup on as I could, and the hat that covers a multitude of hair sins. And people will say, my family, my brother's friend from the Navy came in and he said, "Are you going with us to brunch in the morning?" And I said, "Well, I really need to go to Sunday school. I like to do that, and I'll see you when y'all get back from brunch." So I love coming to Sunday school and church, and it's a welcoming church.
We love walking in and seeing your son.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll try not to cry.
Okay, so where we were was we're talking about what is important to you and what do you enjoy doing. And I want you to think about that and tell me. I told you that I enjoy gardening and I enjoy reading and I enjoy coming to Sunday school and church. But what are some things?
Okay, I enjoy reading, I enjoy gardening, and I enjoy doing something with my hands, knitting, crocheting, whatever,
Okay,
sewing,
yeah,
whatever.
okay. Good, that's
Mainly knitting because I
got
have
some
much
interest. We've
television.
got similar likes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like to read occasionally. I read in spurts. I'll read wide open for 6 weeks, and I won't touch a book for 6 weeks. It just depends if I'm on a high low. I enjoy making Pat happy.
You are a smart man. Smart man.
You got it, Greg. Got it.
Well, I've given up on making Wiley happy. No, I'm happy, you know, I do too. I love writing. Period. I love a lot of other things too, but that's the center.
You love learning.
Hmm?
And you love learning, reading and learning.
But writing is my passion.
Okay.
What do you write?
Working on a book on Shelton Laurel right now.
What?
Shelton Laurel.
Shelton Laurel, really?
Mhm.
That's awesome. My grandmother wrote a book about Laurel.
She what?
She wrote a book about Laurel.
Oh, really? You need to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot
Here we
of
go.
people, yeah.
As Emily's official PR agent, which I enjoy. Emily is now on her third book, and she spent her most productive years as a professional journalist and editor and publisher of a paper. So she's very broad gauged in her reading.
I paid him to come this morning.
I enjoy rescuing things, things that would otherwise be thrown away, and making them into something that might appear to me to be useful or to be attractive. And that also includes rescuing animals like cats.
Well, Joanne, I never knew that about you. Will you please tell me something you rescued? Not an animal, that you turned into something. I think that's fascinating.
Oh, I'm always looking for things that came from my culture and my background, I guess. And so if I've got some crochet pieces that my grandmother did. She crocheted incessantly, and when she died, there were boxes and boxes full of doilies and things like that. So I took some of those and had them framed, and they're on the wall now. So I don't want doilies on the furniture. They just go like this.
I love to mow.
Yes, you do.
Well, people who know what I mow will tell you I probably don't have the time to go do it for anybody else. I don't know. It relaxes me. I do walk behind. It's one of those self-propel that goes as fast as you go, and sometimes that's not too fast. But nothing on the property is flat except the putting green, and everything else is on some kind of an angle. And I put my headphones on and turn it to NPR, and I commune. Sometimes I don't have the headphones on and I commune with nature. My dad was upset because I was down there, I don't know, maybe Sunday lunch or something, and I said, well, I've got to go mow. And he said, and I now say I get to go mow, but he said, it's Sunday. And I said, well, Daddy, first of all, that was back when I was working, and I said, every day this week when I got home from work, cranked up the mower, and it started raining. Mm-hmm. And I said, the grass really needs mowing. But I said, to be quite frank, I feel no closer to God anywhere than I do in my yard. So I guess you could say I am passionate about mowing. And by the time I finish, which was yesterday, I need to start again, which is the front yard for the new house. And the ryegrass that they mixed in with the grass seed is like this now, and I mowed it a week ago. So when I get things done today and the evening wanes on, I'll take an hour and I'll go mow the grass for the new house. So that's what I love to do.
Well, I also like to mow, but I have a riding mower.
That's okay.
So
I won't hold it against you.
But I use your phones and all that. But here lately, I've just gotten hooked on, I have online subscriptions to Washington Post and New York Times, and I love doing puzzles, all kinds of puzzles and crosswords and anything they put in there. I try, and I have to kind of watch out, or I'll sit there 2 or 3 hours and not realize that I'm doing all kind of doing that. But anything that kind of stimulates my brain, or is a mystery, or putting stuff together that fits. That's, I don't know if that makes sense, but I enjoy doing that.
You do jigsaw puzzles?
On my iPad.
No, that's not the same.
Oh, yeah, it's kind of,
I love children's books. Lucy and I have a little club between us of children's literature, and I love reading to children, and I love being with children and sharing the stories, and I love having the books, and it's just kind of a passion I thoroughly enjoy, especially the older, what they call the golden age books of children's literature, but that's one of my loves.
I like to be outside. I love to spend like a Saturday on Lake Wasaga just with paddleboard, lots of sunscreen, and some water.
I like to sew. I like to do quilt. I've made a few quilts, and I like to do that. I like to cook.
I like to eat.
And I'm in a book club. I like to read. That has gotten me to read more than I would have otherwise, but I do enjoy it.
I can't think there's too much I don't like to do. They have this thing about a body in motion that wants to stay in motion, a body at rest wants to stay at rest. And the hardest thing for me is starting something, but I want to preface this thought in there is I really like helping people. I like to do things for somebody else. It's easier for me to do something for somebody else than it is even for myself, which makes no sense. But I get a bigger high off of doing something for somebody else than I do doing my own thing. I like gardening, and I like to be outside all the time. But I just like doing things for other people. It gives me a big high for some reason.
Well, we certainly benefit at church.
The one thing that is very important to me is taking care of my father and making sure that he's got all his needs met, and he can. I mean, he's really independent, but sometimes just a little assist is needed, and that's important to me. And my whole life, and animals have been a huge part of it. And like I they have me, whenever I get in an area, the entire animal kingdom has me pegged as a sucker. So here they come. And so I really, that's important to me, to take care of them. Be as much as, I don't want to intervene, especially in wild animals' lives, because they figured this out long before me, but I do enjoy being a very curious observer of the wilds around me. And right now I have a male turkey. His name is Spencer. And Spencer and I are really good friends. And
That's great.
we go around and look at all the flowers together. So I've never had a turkey friend.
He follows you?
He does. Yeah.
And they like Japanese beetles.
Which is fine with me. Yeah, he's a really interesting guy, that Spencer. So it's been he's filled me with a lot of joy just watching what this animal does. And I have fawns. Moms bring their fawns over and place them in my yard because they know it's safe, and it's just really nice. That's just really important to me, to create a place for that to occur. I don't care about people, but animals are welcome.
They don't talk back to you.
Just come.
I think we missed Wiley.
We did miss Judy.
Oh, I was first.
Oh,
Judy just finished.
well,
We're going to go back to you.
No.
I have discovered that I love to cook. I just really enjoy cooking. I love to walk. I walk at least 3 miles and usually 4.5 a day. I love to read. I love to be with Emily. This church is life for me and all of you. I really love to play the piano, but I hadn't been doing it lately. And so I want to get back to that. And I love to write.
Wow. What an eclectic group of people we are. Yeah, a lot of diverse interests and insights into your personalities. Well, one thing Dr. McMurdy said is that you have all these interests. Well, one thing you can do is this can build social confidence in that you can then share these interests with other people. And one of the things that I found amazing at this church is the music program. The people who play the bells, the people who sing in the choir, all of these are groups of people with like interest and get together and share.
No, we were just forced by Judy. Lucy. Tell people.
Oh, I have
choice. Sorry.
Yeah. Yes, Lucy's very persuasive. I persuaded her that I was better at growing plants than I was at playing bells. But when we share like this Sunday school class, I've told Lisa, this Sunday school class is a treasure. This is such a wonderful place to come and be with friends and people. And it's just, I can't say enough about how much it means in my life and how much it means in all of our lives, I would assume. But we form these groups, we form these friendships because of like interest. I mean, we have a lot of mutual interests. Lucy has us organized for the plant fair, the plant sale once a year. And she's put in this beautiful garden down, that meditation garden. But these are things that are meaningful for us to share. UNW is a great group. They do so many positive things and do so much outreach in this community. But I was mentioning this to, he said, well, if you're going to start talking about how we can have outreach in the community, aren't you kind of stepping on Paula's toes, with mission and ministry? And I said, I don't think so, but I'll mention it to her. So I sent her a note and told her that I wasn't meaning to infringe on her wonderful job that she's doing. But she said that one thing that she would like to mention to us that she thinks would be a very good way of cementing our friendships, bringing us together, getting to know each other better. I mean, I've learned things about y'all this morning that I never knew. So, like, you know, but she said that she would like to see us form pretty much like supper clubs. Small groups of people that could get together at one another's home and have supper together and get to know each other. She said it's important to go not only reach out and be together, and what better way to be together than to eat together, but the one thing that is very important is you see how someone else lives. I have a lot fewer books now, so my shelves don't fall in. But we all
Barbecue outside.
we all have our, you know, I've always called where your home is where you nest. You gather everything around you that you love. When people come in my house, they know where I usually sit because I have a nest. My books, yeah. But she said it would be, she would like to see if we could do that on a monthly basis. And if we could, we would change up. So there would be everybody that would want to be involved. And then the groups would be divided up. And then the next month, they would be reassigned. So different people would eat together so that different, and it does not have to be just limited to the Sunday school class. Mm-hmm. I see so many people, you know, I think about people who have come to this church, who have started coming to this church, and then stopped coming for whatever reason. Maybe they're only online, but they're not coming as often. And now I'm not going to be able to remember any names, but I know of people who have come that were coming on a regular basis for a while, and then I don't see them anymore. So I don't know what has happened to those people, but I would like to know so we can get them involved in things. But another thing I thought about was we've had this group of elderly people come for a while. And recently we had one of them show up.
No,
I'm not talking about you.
The real
Across
ones.
the street.
Just because you sit on those doesn't mean you. But I thought it would be nice if we could, I don't know how awkward this would be if we only go to have a meal with the ones who were coming. That probably would be pretty awkward. But I know that Roger would be very interested in coming and getting together. And Paula had invited him to her house. So he's at the nursing home. I don't know if y'all know.
This week is his birthday, by the way.
Huh?
This week is his birthday, by the way.
Now, that's the gentleman that sits up on the right, up towards the front. Yeah, he's very friendly.
Mm-hmm. So I know he enjoys our third
He does.
Sunday meals, but I don't know what it seems like. Maybe an imposition, especially this time of the year when people are going so many different directions. But it's something to think about, seeing if it would be something that you would be interested in doing. Now, I know many of you are paint, and you're in the group that meets, the little church mice that meet to paint. And there's people who like to well, there was something else. I knew the painters, and it knew the musicians. But there are other groups that are formed in our church that get together to do things. I've always wanted to say I would like to have a book club. I would love to have different books that we would be interested in, and we wouldn't have to do it around a meal, but I know some of y'all have already started a book club. But some of the closest relationships I've had in my life are people who shared my love of books. My best friend when I was growing up, she and I used to walk to the library, which was a pretty good walk, every Saturday morning and get as many books as we could, and then walk back, and we'd jump right in and start reading that afternoon, usually at her house because it was a lot quieter than mine. And when you grow up in a, 8 people in a house, it's kind of noisy, especially when the rowdies. But building friendships can be based on what you love, what you enjoy doing. And we can do that more so than we're doing right now, even if it's in individual small groups that don't get out and switch around or have supper clubs or whatever. But anyway, do y'all have any other ideas? Anything that you see that we can do to build these great friendships that we have, to share with each other on a
Margaret, when I lived in Asheville for a while, I went to the Unitarian Church Summit, and they had a really good thing. Of course, that's a big church, lots of people, but they put everybody into a small group. I think that's just what they call it, and you meet like once a month or twice a month, and it stayed. I mean, the groups were there, people went in and out, but you really got to know people, and we would just get together to talk, have refreshments, and I think anytime you can get a smaller group, be it Sunday school or going out to eat or whatever, that's when you really get to know people.
Right.
You can't get to know people in the sanctuary. I mean, you meet them, but you don't really get to know them like that.
That's the point of this.
Mm-hmm.
I was out walking yesterday, and a neighbor approached me, and she said, does your church have a Bible study that I could be a part of? Now, this was a black neighbor. This was a neighbor with roots in Madison County, although she lives in our area.
I think she's related to Miss Charity.
Huh?
I think she's related to Miss Charity, isn't she?
Yes. But she was real interested, and I know that Lisa is planning to do some kind of online group that when she gets back. But the second thing is related to that. I just read an article that said that progressive, and I use that word loosely, churches like us can expect not a flood, but a steady dribble of refugees from churches that have turned into be Christian nationalist churches. And one of the things that this article talked about was when those people come, you want to be able to receive them. We've talked about being a lighthouse congregation. A lighthouse is a place that people come in when they've been shipwrecked. And they may stay a good while, they may leave fairly soon, they may stay forever. But we need to be prepared to explain and to help them understand who we are and the biblical and theological base for that, because that's where they're coming from, is that key assumption that the biblical and theological base is important, and they're leaving these churches because they believe they have left that biblical and theological base. So that would be another group that could include regular members, but also include people that are just coming to, or not just coming, but are coming because they're really interested in the biblical and theological understanding for our faith and how it applies to our lives. All the things we've mentioned are really important and good, and I would be happy. I do think it's important for us to remember the roots of why this diverse people are here.
What would we have to change if these people came, the people you described?
We wouldn't have we would need to have some opportunities for people to share and be welcome. It's all the things we've been doing,
Like
but
we're doing
applying to a particular subset that we can expect to be coming to us. And I know Heath has been working on some, and the Mission and Outreach has been working on what do we do when people, how do we welcome people who are refugees from churches that have disaffiliated with the United Methodist Church?
Don't you think that first we have to understand what their interest is?
Sure.
And what so it's almost like we could have a questionnaire or make it more personal. I mean,
well, we can do a lot of different things.
Yeah, but Lucy always is going to hit the bells. We don't need to worry about that.
I think you have to assume these people are going to be more standoffish, more skeptical. They've been hurt by the church, and they've been hurt deeply. So trying to maybe right away draw them in might be a little much, especially like with giving them all available opportunities, because it's quite possible they may be coming from a background that had all of those available opportunities. Anthony was speaking with one of his friends this week who attends a very large church in this area, and I think there were some things that came out of the pulpit last week that she is ready to leave that, and I think she ended up sharing some words because everyone who, in her words, who works at that church, all the way down to some of the people in the church office, drive a Lexus, have a regular home and have a second lake home and or beach home, if not more. But they have a wonderful children's program, which is why she goes there. But they've been very hurt by some things that have been said at that congregation. So I think we have to assume that they're not necessarily coming from a place of comfort. And so it may just be as simple as welcoming them, showing them love, and then after maybe it starts with a as opposed to a questionnaire or something of that nature. Maybe it starts with a lunch, a coffee, or something of that nature.
Yeah, like a coffee club to deprogram and just give them space to talk, because it's been a trauma what has happened to them, and I think you need to
Listen.
more than anything, and then let them, as and when they're ready, approach us.
I think we have to respect that some people need to come and observe and watch. And they will learn who we are, and they can decide. But they don't need to be descended upon by
And the choir of angels.
I was thinking a horde of something.
No.
Because it's frightening, you know, for some people. I don't like to be surrounded or, you know, or the center of attention. That's not how some people operate.
A very old, but I still think important understanding is many doors, not just one. And that's what we've been talking about. There's no one answer here. There are, and for a small congregation, we do have a lot of doors. As a congregation, the one place that I see that we don't concentrate much on except in church is the biblical base for who we are and what we do.
Say more, what you mean by that?
This is probably one of the two greatest Sunday school classes I've ever been a part of. It's wonderful. Wouldn't change a thing. When is the last time this Sunday school class really looked biblically at our faith and our, in more than grabbing passages that relate to a subject that we're already decided to be on. We do that occasionally. I'm just wondering if we need something in addition to Sunday school that we offer in that direction.
Yeah, I think I would say it needs to be in addition, but not,
Yes,
not to change.
I totally agree.
Okay.
I like Bible studies. Like
What did you
when I was
say,
a
Lisa?
kid, we used to do Wednesday night Bible study.
Yeah. And
Didn't you say Lisa was going to do a class?
Uh,
Didn't you say Lisa was going to?
I don't know the nature of what she's going to do online yet, and maybe somebody else does, but I don't.
Well, online is a good thing, but I still think it's better in person. I know, for me, that personal relationship, you can do more interaction when you're together. I know I've been a part of a disciple Bible study, and it's very comprehensive and it's a very long commitment, but the disciple Bible studies are excellent.
Absolutely wonderful
studies. So, I mean, that would be something that we could consider to
You
have.
just ask for other things, and that's one that I see
Yeah.
that might be helpful.
Oh, yes, I do
Let's
too.
also remember too, these don't have to be led by Lisa. This might be something Lisa could be looking at doing between Mars Hill and Bright Hope Laurel. We theoretically have Lisa have time to 25 hours a week, and then to borrow from our district superintendent, 12 hours of that should be spent preparing for delivering, following up on her sermon, which leaves us about another roughly 12, 13 hours a week, which could be anything from administrative work that she has to do with the district, the meetings she has to come to with church council, and other things. So we're talking about a limited amount of time that she could have available and the best use of her gifts, but doesn't mean that others can't leave that.
Well, that's the thing, we have a lot of, several folks that could be the convener of something like that, including lay folks. That doesn't always have to be led by clergy. I'd be willing to be a part of something like that. Anyway, this isn't a deciding session. This is a brainstorming session.
Yes, exactly.
So,
Well, and with the disciple studies that I've been a part of, there was never one individual leader. It would be a leader for Matthew, the book of Matthew, and then another leader for another book. But the disciple studies can be very comprehensive, and so it can be very time consuming. And someone may be willing to make a commitment for a portion of it, but not for the full.
well, that's the only issue with disciple.
Yes.
Is it really is. It's like taking a college course. It really is.
Well, I think what you said, Wiley, would be more effective for me anyway. How do we talk to people about why our churches made the decisions it's made? I mean, we came from how many years ago when Jim Coos came, and we had to make some decisions about how we would go forward. And I'm not sure I could tell people very well without some thinking about it, about the faith process that went with that. So I'd rather do that kind of a Bible study than say, start with Mark or whatever.
That would be great.
Just in general.
And that's one of the things that this article talked about, was being able to explain, not trying to convince,
if they were to
explain
ask.
who you are and why, biblically and theologically. That I think might be interesting for people who've been here 30 years.
Yeah.
But it might be really interesting for people who are relative newcomers or brand new folks.
My question is, I think we've had a lot of good ideas and a lot of things that I would definitely be willing to participate in. But how do we make sure, that this goes further, that we actually, something comes of it, and maybe we try something now and then 2 months we try something else and just see what works. But I'm really interested in how to make it work, how to really initiate some of these ideas and go forward with them.
Could I suggest that if anybody have heard something that they would like to be a champion of, that you let Joanne and Margaret know, and one of you two, since you're teaching and you're the kind of convening leader for the group, communicate in writing to the mission and outreach group. Here's some things that the Sunday school class came up with, You may find some of them not useful. You may find some of them doable. And here's some people that would be willing to champion one of these. If somebody said, you know, I'd really like to help organize that dinner club thing, that would be a tremendous service, and it'll probably get done if you do it, because you commit to it. You want it. You believe in it. So that's at least one thing we could do to make sure something happens.
I think Paula would do that.
Paula would love to hear about it, and the rest of the
She was
Mission
her
Outreach
suggestion.
Group. Emily's a member of that, and several of you are members of that. So you've been hearing that. The Mission and Outreach people, but if it was in writing to Paula as acting chair, that would move us.
Okay.
Some of you may have other ideas that you would be willing to champion.
Okay, so this brainstorming session is just about time for us to close. This has been a really very good, and I would like to see what you all would like to pursue. You have I think everyone in here has my email address. But what you can do is either let me or you can let Joanne know what you are really interested in pursuing. If you don't want to be the person in charge of that, I understand it. But if you would give me an idea about, we've had a lot of good ideas about what you would be a little more specific about the Bible study, for instance, and how we would get that started. Where would you like to meet? I think for many of us, the church is the most convenient place, but we also have to make sure that we have space available at the time that we decide to do that. So there are some housekeeping things that would have to be done. But I think the best way to get this started is to talk more about it. Maybe we can do that next week, and we can say, these are the things that I would really like to see us pursue and get started, and see who would be willing to be the, for some reason, the instigator popped into my mind. I don't think that's the right word, but the person who would get that started.
Are we thinking of instead of Sunday school, or in the time frame of Sunday school, or anytime?
Anytime, not instead of Sunday school, because that's separate.
Just clarify.
I would like to know, if we had a Bible study, what direction you would find appealing, interesting, and worthy of your time that should be. In my opinion, there's been such a change in our society and our world that I think some direction of what it means to be Christian in this society might be an interesting topic. You may have better ideas and understanding about what's needed, but if you're interested in the historical Jesus, or if you're interested in looking at the prophets, I'd like to know what you're interested in about a Bible study. And I could pass that along to the people who would be carrying out that mission.
Okay.
Pass it along is an important phrase. She didn't say she'd.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
Delegate this right on over.
And remember, Brightwood Laurel has their Tuesday morning spiritual support group that is usually a little bit more traditional. I think right now they're reading How to Be an Anti-Racist, or have been reading How to Be an Anti-Racist. But that's Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m., mostly in person. They can provide a link to participate online, but it is mostly in person.
And they do that at the church.
They do that at the church in the Fellowship Hall. And if it's cool outside, they have a working fireplace they turn on that's very cozy to sit inside.
I think Mary Lou had a really good point for Bibles, for a Bible study. It's what she said about 5 minutes ago. Why are we who we are?
Why are we what?
Why are we who we are?
Oh.
As a congregation.
And what, as an individual, do we do in our social lives and in our civic lives about answering the call?
That's a lot of what Dr. Murthy talks about in the last section of the book, about some of the things, the possible things that you can do in your community. And one thing about this book, it has so many examples, so many things that he talks about and relates the topics to. And I can't go into all of those because it's just too time consuming. But I would also like to talk more about what we can do in the community